All right, welcome back. Today we're diving into some Shakespeare.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
Act 1, Scene 2, King Lear, to be exact.
okay.
Um, think of this as your secret weapon for navigating those classroom discussions or just satisfying your curiosity about this classic play.
Yeah, this scene really throws you right into the heart of the drama.
Oh, for sure.
It sets up a lot of the major themes of the play, like betrayal, family dynamics, and the dangers of ambition.
Yeah, okay, so let's set the scene.
Okay.
We're introduced to Edmund, who is the illegitimate son of the Earl of Gloucester.
Right.
Right away, he launches into this incredible soliloquy where he basically says he's not going to let his birth status define him.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how Edmund uses the idea of natural law to justify his actions.
Oh, interesting.
He's basically saying that societal rules are artificial and that he's going to follow his own instincts, even if it means going against what's considered morally right.
So he's kind of like a rebel,
Mm-hmm.
challenging the establishment.
Exactly.
Wow.
And this idea of nature versus nurture. Yeah.
Are we shaped by our circumstances or our inherent nature?
Right.
Is a theme that runs throughout the entire play. Think about it.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like you were being judged or limited by something you couldn't control? Maybe your family background or where you grew up? Edmund's struggle is something a lot of people can relate to even centuries later.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how much of who we are is determined by factors outside of our control and how much we can actually shape our own destinies.
Right.
But getting back to Edmund's, he doesn't just complain about his situation.
No, he doesn't.
He actually hatches a plan to change it.
He does. And it's not exactly ethical.
He's incredibly cunning.
Yeah.
He forges a letter supposedly written by his legitimate brother, Edgar.
Oh, wow.
That makes it seem like Edgar is plotting against their father.
Oh, no.
The language he uses in the letter is really interesting
Okay.
because it plays on very specific fears and anxieties that would have resonated with someone like Gloucester.
You mean like worries about aging, being replaced, or losing control?
Exactly. And this manipulation is something Shakespeare does brilliantly throughout the play.
Yeah.
He shows us how language can be used as a weapon to influence and control others.
Wow.
It makes you think about how we use language in our own lives and how we might be influenced by the words of others.
Right.
It's
And
powerful.
it is powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the key quotes from this scene.
Okay.
One that really jumped out at me was when Edmund says, "Thou, nature, art my goddess. To thy law, my services are bound."
Right.
It's like he's rejecting all the societal rules and embracing a more primal, almost Darwinian philosophy.
That quote is so important because it reveals Edmund's worldview.
Yeah.
He's basically saying that he's not going to play by the rules of society, which he sees as artificial and unfair.
Yeah.
Instead, he's going to follow his own natural instincts, even if it means harming others in the process. This raises an important question. Does rejecting societal norms automatically make you a villain?
Ooh.
Or can it be a form of rebellion against an unjust system? It's something worth thinking about, especially as you read the rest of the play.
It's almost like he's creating his own moral code based on what he believes is natural and right, even
Yeah.
if it conflicts with the laws and customs of his time.
Right.
But there's another quote that I found even more chilling.
Oh, really?
Edmund says, "Legitimate Edgar, I must have your land."
Yeah.
It's so blunt and reveals his ambition and willingness to betray his own family.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
that line really foreshadows the chaos and tragedy that's about to unfold in the play.
Ooh.
It's not just about Edmund's personal ambition.
Right.
It's about the destructive power of unchecked desire and how it can tear families and even entire kingdoms apart.
Wow.
Heavy stuff.
It definitely sets the stage for some major conflict.
There's one more quote from the forged letter that
Okay.
I think is really important to understand Edmund's tactics. He writes, "This policy and reverence of age makes the world bitter to the best of our times."
That's such a manipulative line.
It is.
He's basically saying that older people are holding back the younger generation. It's something that would definitely appeal to Gloucester's insecurities about aging and his place in the world.
What's fascinating here is how Edmund understands his audience. He knows
Ye-
exactly what buttons to push to get the reaction he wants.
Wow, he's good.
He is.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
This idea of understanding your audience,
Right.
whether it's a friend, a teacher, or even a character in a play,
Yeah,
is a valuable skill to have.
for sure.
It's about empathy and persuasion.
I like it.
It's like he's giving a voice to those who feel stifled by tradition and authority.
Right.
That resentment can be a powerful motivator,
Oh, yeah.
but you're right, he takes it to a dangerous extreme.
Yeah. So we see that Edmund is pretty scheming, but what about his brother Edgar?
Right.
I feel kind of bad for him.
Yeah.
He seems totally oblivious to what's going on.
Edgar represents a certain kind of innocence and naivete at this point in the play.
Hmm.
He trusts his father and brother completely, which makes him vulnerable to Edmund's manipulations.
Do you think he's just gullible, or is there something more to it?
Well, consider the context of family in Shakespeare's time.
Okay.
Loyalty and obedience to your father were paramount.
Oh, yeah. Guess so.
It wasn't easy to question or challenge those in authority, especially within your own family.
So even if Edgar had suspicions, speaking up against his brother or questioning his father could have had serious consequences.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And that societal pressure adds another layer of complexity to the situation.
Yeah.
It's not just about individual choices, it's about the expectations and constraints of the time period.
That makes me think about how we see similar dynamics even today.
Right.
Sometimes it can be really hard to speak truth to power,
Yeah,
whether it's within a family, a school, or even society as a whole.
that's a great connection. Shakespeare was a master of exploring those timeless human dilemmas. The struggles these characters face aren't confined to Elizabethan England.
No.
They're still relevant to us today.
Yeah, they are.
That's why we still read them.
You mentioned earlier how Shakespeare uses language so effectively.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any other examples of that in this scene?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The whole scene is a masterclass in manipulation.
Right.
But one line that really stands out is from Edmund's soliloquy,
Okay.
where he says, "I grow, I prosper, now gods stand up for bastards."
Whoa. There's a lot to unpack in that one sentence.
Right.
He's so confident, almost defiant.
It's like he's announcing his intentions to the world and challenging anyone who dares to stand in his way.
Mm.
And notice the irony. He's
Yeah.
invoking the gods, even though he's rejected traditional morality.
So he's using religion to his advantage, even though he doesn't seem to actually believe in it?
Exactly. It shows how clever and opportunistic he is.
Wow.
He'll use anything at his disposal to achieve his goals.
This scene is a reminder to be critical of the information we receive and to think about the motives behind the speaker's words.
Yeah,
It's something that's so important,
it is.
especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides.
That's for sure.
You've mentioned natural law a couple of times now.
I have, haven't I?
What exactly did that mean to someone like Edmund?
In Shakespeare's time,
Okay.
there was a growing interest in the idea of natural law, which basically said that certain rights and principles are inherent to human beings regardless of social customs or man-made laws.
So Edmund is using this idea to justify his actions.
All right?
Even though they're pretty underhanded,
Mhm.
he's basically saying that he has a natural right to pursue his own ambitions, even if it means breaking societal rules.
But there's a deeper philosophical debate here.
Okay.
Is Edmund genuinely rejecting societal constructs?
Right.
Or is he just twisting these ideas to suit his selfish desires?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Shakespeare doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
He wants us to wrestle with these questions ourselves.
Yeah.
He wants us to think.
It's like he's forcing us to think about what we believe in
Yeah.
and what we're willing to accept.
And that's what makes this scene so compelling.
Yeah.
It raises questions that are still relevant today.
Right.
What happens when personal ambition clashes with societal expectations?
Ooh.
Where do we draw the line between pursuing our own goals and respecting the rights of others? Good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff.
Big questions.
Okay, so we've talked about Edmund, but let's get back to Gloucester.
Okay.
I'm curious, why does he fall for Edmund's lies so easily?
Gloucester is a fascinating character.
Right.
He's presented as a wise and experienced man, but he's also deeply superstitious and prone to making rash judgments.
Oh, interesting.
He's easily swayed by Edmund's flattery and manipulations,
Right.
which plays into one of the major themes of the play,
Okay.
the dangers of blindness, both literal and metaphorical.
You mean how we can be blind to the truth even when it's right in front of us?
Precisely. And this blindness applies to so many characters in the play. They fail to see the true nature of those around them, leading to devastating consequences.
Oh, wow.
It's a warning to be aware of our own biases and to question our assumptions,
Right.
especially when it comes to those we trust the most.
It makes you wonder if any of this tragedy could have been avoided
Yeah.
if people had just paid closer attention.
That's the brilliance of Shakespeare.
Yeah,
He gives us these flawed characters and puts them in extreme situations
right.
that force us to confront the complexities of human nature.
I'm curious about the historical context of all this.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Did people in Shakespeare's time really believe in things like astrology and natural law?
Actually, yes. Elizabethan England was a time of great intellectual and scientific upheaval.
Mhm.
People were questioning traditional beliefs and exploring new ideas about the natural world and the role of humanity within it.
So Edmund's talk of natural law would have resonated with audiences who were already grappling with these concepts.
Absolutely. Shakespeare was incredibly skilled at tapping into the anxieties and intellectual currents of his time,
Right.
which is one reason why his plays continue to resonate with audiences centuries later.
Right. Okay, but how does astrology fit into all of this?
Remember that line where Gloucester talks about these late eclipses and the sun and moon portending no good to us?
Yeah, it sounds like he's blaming the stars for all the bad things that are happening.
Astrology was a major influence in Elizabethan England.
Right.
People believed that the movements of the stars could influence human affairs and predict future events.
So Gloucester's using astrology as a way to explain the chaos and upheaval he's experiencing.
In a way, yes.
It's almost like he's abdicating his own responsibility.
He's looking for an external explanation for the turmoil within his family and the kingdom. And this connects to another key theme in the play,
Okay.
fate versus free will.
That's an interesting thought. Do we have control over our own destinies, or are we just pawns in a larger cosmic game?
It's a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. And Shakespeare doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
He presents both sides of the argument, leaving it up to the audience to decide what they believe.
I feel like we could talk about this scene for hours.
You too.
There's just so much to unpack. But before we move on, I
Yes.
want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
The idea of performance.
Ah, yes.
We are analyzing the text here, but imagine how powerful this scene would have been on the Elizabethan stage.
Oh, absolutely. Shakespeare wasn't just a writer. He was a man of the theater.
Right.
He wrote these plays to be performed, to be brought to life by actors in front of a live audience.
I can just picture the actors delivering those lines with such passion and intensity.
Yeah.
The betrayal, the ambition, the fear. It would have been electrifying.
And the audience would have been right there in the thick of it, experiencing those emotions alongside the characters.
Oh, yeah.
It must have been an incredible experience.
It makes me want to go see a live production of King Lear right now.
Me too. There's something so magical about experiencing Shakespeare's plays live.
Yeah,
It adds a whole other dimension to the text.
for sure.
But even without a stage and actors, I think we've managed to uncover some pretty fascinating insights into Act 1, Scene 2.
I completely agree. We've explored Edmund's manipulation,
Right.
the philosophical underpinnings of natural law, the historical context of astrology and fate versus free will, and the importance of performance.
We did it all.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to discover in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Every time you read his plays, you find something new.
Speaking of which, there's one line in this scene
Uh.
that I think is particularly relevant to our discussion today.
I'm intrigued. Which line are you thinking of?
It's when Edmund says, "This is the excellent foppery of the world, that when we are sick in fortune, often the surfeits of our own behavior, we make guilty of our disasters the sun, the moon, and the stars."
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is a long one.
But it struck me because we've been talking about how easily Gloucester blames fate for his problems.
That's a brilliant observation. Edmund is basically calling out humanity's tendency to make excuses for our own mistakes.
Yeah.
Instead of taking responsibility for our actions, we blame external forces like fate, the stars, or even other people.
And it's ironic because Edmund himself is manipulating everyone around him.
Right.
Yet he's also acknowledging this universal human flaw.
Exactly. It adds a layer of complexity to his character.
Yeah.
He's both a manipulator and a keen observer of human behavior.
Yeah.
He understands our weaknesses and knows how to exploit them.
It makes me wonder if Shakespeare is using Edmund to hold up a mirror to the audience,
I think so.
forcing us to confront our own tendencies to blame others for our misfortunes.
That's a great insight. Shakespeare was a master of using his characters to comment on the human condition.
Right.
He wasn't just telling stories, he was exploring the depths of human nature, both the good and the bad.
So even though Edmund is a villain in the traditional sense, he also serves as a kind of commentator, offering a cynical but insightful perspective on human behavior.
And that's what makes him such a compelling character.
Yeah.
He's not just a one-dimensional bad guy.
Right.
He's complex, intelligent, and even somewhat sympathetic in his own way.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time analyzing Act 1, Scene 2.
We have.
How does this scene set up the rest of the play?
This scene is like a domino that sets the whole chain of events in motion.
Okay.
Edmund's deception leads to Bedgar's banishment,
Right.
which then creates a power vacuum that Edmund is all too eager to fill.
And this betrayal within Gloucester's family is mirrored in the royal family, right?
Absolutely.
King Lear is about to make a terrible decision by dividing his kingdom based on his daughter's flattery
Right.
rather than their true love.
Exactly. And just like Gloucester is blind to Edmund's true nature,
Yeah.
Lear is blind to the manipulative intentions of his daughters Goneril and Regan. This parallel structure reinforces the play's theme of blindness and the consequences of making judgments based on appearances or empty words.
So Act 1, Scene 2 really lays the foundation for all the chaos and tragedy that's about to unfold.
It does.
It's like a microcosm of the play's larger themes and conflicts.
And it introduces us to some of the most complex and fascinating characters in all of literature.
Oh, for sure.
Edmund, Edgar, Gloucester. Their relationships and choices will drive much of the action in the play.
It's amazing how Shakespeare can pack so much into a single scene.
He was a master of economy and efficiency.
Yeah.
Every line, every action, every interaction serves a purpose, advancing the plot and deepening our understanding of the characters.
It makes you want to go back and reread the scene with a fresh perspective, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that's the mark of a truly great work of literature.
Yeah.
It rewards multiple readings and reveals new layers of meaning each time you engage with it.
Well, I think we've done a pretty deep dive into Act 1, Scene 2 of King Lear.
I think so too.
We've uncovered some of the key themes, analyzed the characters' motivations, explored the historical context, and even talked about the importance of performance.
It's been a good deep dive.
I think so too.
And I hope we've given you some food for thought and helped you appreciate the richness and complexity of Shakespeare's work.
Yeah, and don't forget to think about how these ideas connect to your own life and experiences.
Right.
Shakespeare's plays are timeless because they deal with universal human themes that are still relevant today.
I think that's it for today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me for this deep dive into King Lear.
It was fun.
Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.